Excuse me, who taught you to sign like that? You ever have a moment hit you so hard you forget you're even standing there? That was me, right in the middle of a marble hallway on the 46th floor, just another Tuesday, thinking I was invisible, just a blur in a cleaning uniform. But Ethan Caldwell, the guy in the sharp suit whose face I'd only ever seen in magazines, was there, staring, not through me, but at me. My hands froze in midair, right in the middle of a sign I was practicing, like muscle memory, you know? Panic rushed through me, heart thumping in my ears, and for a split second I was sure I was about to get fired. All I could manage was, "Sorry, I didn't mean," but he cut me off with a gentle smile. "No need to apologize. That was sign language, right?" That's when I realized he wasn't upset. He was curious. I'd never met a CEO curious about a maid, and I've met more brooms than men with business cards. Let me tell you that I tried to shrink away, keep small like I was taught. Years of going unnoticed had me trained for it. But Ethan glanced at my name badge and said, "You're not in trouble, Maya. Actually, would you stop by my office tomorrow? I'd like to talk." I nodded like I had any choice, but all the way home, my mind was spinning. At the kitchen table that night, I just picked at my dinner, while my brother Zeke, he's the reason I learned ASL in the first place, watched me from the couch. When I told him the CEO wanted to talk to me, his eyes lit up. "Maybe he wants to offer you a new job," he signed, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Me, a maid, talking to the CEO. I wasn't so sure. I ironed my uniform twice the next morning, hands shaking the whole time. When I got to the executive floor, carpet soft as a cloud, air smelling like money, I felt like an imposter. But Ethan wasn't behind his big desk in a suit. Sleeves rolled up, tie gone, just a guy with a photo on the shelf behind him. A younger Ethan signing next to an older man with hearing aids. "I learned ASL for my little brother," I said, still unsure if this was some elaborate prank. But he just nodded, asking about my life like it mattered. When I told him I dropped out of school to work after my mom got sick, he listened, not the way people pretend, but for real. "We're building AI to interpret sign language," he explained, "but we're hitting a wall with nuance. We need someone who actually lives the language. Would you help us?" Now, I know what you're thinking, me in tech. I told him, "I'm not qualified. I never finished school. I clean hotel rooms." But he just leaned back, sharing how he was deaf as a kid after an accident, and how someone signing to him had changed his life. "You taught yourself out of love," he said. "That's more than most people ever do." He slid me a business card, told me to call if I wanted to try. I couldn't sleep that night, just staring at that card, wondering if I could ever belong in a place like that. But Zeke, he saw right through me. "What if you don't try?" he signed. "Isn't that worse than failing?" So, next morning, I called Ethan. My voice shook, but I said yes. When I stepped into Clear Link Technologies that day, it was like walking into another universe. Glass walls, folks in jeans with laptops everywhere, screens full of hands signing. Ethan introduced me to the team, Dennis and Clara, real engineers, not the kind that mop floors. They showed me their ASL recognition system. It missed everything that mattered: emotion, urgency, context. "It's not just hands, it's the whole person," I told them, and for the first time, they listened. There was a twist, though. Sarah Chun, head of staffing, pulled me aside, crisp suit, unreadable face, telling me not everyone would be happy about a maid consulting for tech. "People notice when someone without credentials gets that kind of trust," she said. It stung, but I tried not to let it show. Later, Ethan told me how he started out fixing radios at night, how no one believed in him either. "You've lived both sides, Maya," he said. "That's what matters. You'd think the story ends there. Happy little maid becomes consultant. The end. But life's never that neat." Back at the hotel, Sarah caught me again, warning me to know my limits, to remember which world I belonged to. It cut deep, not because she was wrong, but because part of me believed her. Then Mrs. Green, my supervisor, guardian angel in a hairnet, found me curled up in a back room. "You have something they don't, Maya. You know what silence means. That's why they need you," she said. "Sometimes it takes someone else's faith to spark your own. With that push, I called Ethan and said yes to the offer. First day on the job, I was terrified, walked around the block twice before I could even go in. But Dennis and Clara welcomed me, and soon I was showing them things their machines missed. There's textbook ASL, and then there's real life, I explained. When I watched the AI misinterpret a sign, I felt the weight of what we were building. This wasn't just code. It was people's lives, their stories. Ethan noticed, too, offering me a formal position, ASL User Experience Consultant. Even Sarah couldn't argue with results. But every story's got a shadow, right? Soon, James Reinhardt from Compliance joined. Gray suit, sharp eyes, questioning my background, hinting about my brother's activism. They started talking audits, security, all that. When a company grows, scrutiny grows with it, he warned. Made me feel like a threat for the first time in my life, not because of what I'd done, but because of who I was. Then the real twist hit. One night, I caught someone editing the AI, stripping out emotion, dulling distress signals. If the system can't recognize pain or fear, it could put people in danger. Imagine an emergency responder not getting the urgency. I showed Ethan. Together, we traced the changes to James's department. There it was, proof someone was trying to sterilize empathy out of the code. The next days were a whirlwind, gathering evidence, prepping to face the board. I stood in front of them, hands trembling, and demonstrated the difference. I feel unsafe became, this environment makes me uncomfortable. A world of difference, and the board saw it. Agent Lucas from the Department of Information Oversight stepped in, promising a full audit. James was put on leave, Sarah ducked my gaze, and for the first time I felt not just seen but heard. Later, Judge Doyes, a retired ADA advocate, asked me what I wanted. A system that sees fear when it's signed, not just when it's spoken, I said. That's all. Sloan Dynamics, the company behind the AI, made a public disclosure. My name went in the record, not for fame, but for fixing a crack in the system that you'd think the happy ending rolls in now. New job, respect, a little justice. But what stuck with me most was that moment, walking home with flowers for my sister, feeling the city's breeze on my face. It wasn't just my story anymore, but every person who's ever been told to stay quiet, to shrink, to be invisible. Turns out, justice doesn't always shout in a courtroom. Sometimes, it signs quietly in the dark and still changes everything. Oh, let me ask you. If you saw someone like Maya, would you believe in her, or would you wait for someone else to see her worth first? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Where do you stand on giving people a shot, even when the world says they don't belong? That's the real story here, and I can't wait to hear what you think.